I talked to Scott Atherton. You know that name? A past president of IMSA this morning, as well as John Doonan, present president of IMSA, both buddies of mine. But apparently you got started in your garage in the late, you started getting into racing in the late 80s, and you couldn't get permitted to run a shop, and then you moved to Sonoma to the Speedway to do that. And Scott said, remember that it's not Kevin that's the genius behind this. It's your wife. It's your wife, Deborah. So
we'll agree with that right now, on the record.
So you started Porsche Club Racing, and you started TRG, which is the Racers Group, in 1992. You had a class win at both Daytona and Le Mans. And John Doonan reminded me this morning you had an outright win in a GT class car in 2003. So that's you still got to be wondering how you got away with that one.
We still have the car too.
Yeah. So you then started Adobe Road Winery in 2002. You've won dozens of awards for your wines, and you recently broke ground. You showed me the site a couple of years ago. I visited with you of your huge new tasting room and event facility on the Petaluma River. So quite impressive that was. So how did you come to race? I mean,
so I was, and I'm actually going back there tonight. I'm a Southern California car kid from the good old days, and we grew up at Newport Beach, California, in the '70s. And we were coming into class, 5 minutes late. Mr. Wakeman says, "Oh, Mr. Buckler, tell the class why you're late this morning." I've got my hair's wet. There's sand on my face. My boogie board's outside. It was a big break at the wedge. I said, "I overslept," and so never got away with it. But no, it was a really fun, easygoing. We were tough love dads back then, so we didn't realize we were living in a nice area. But it was a car culture, and it was wonderful. And my best friends in the world are still, tonight is our 44th annual reunion that none of us ever miss. It's pretty cool. So meeting down there in Oceanfront. Car culture, always into cars, always into sports cars, dragging in front of the high school, getting in trouble like usual. And I moved back to Iowa in a business I started, and met a wonderful woman back there. I had to go back to the Midwest to find a good one, I guess. And always into cars, and I joined the Porsche Club back there because I had just bought a little car that had chased me around for a while. I bought a brand new 84 944, and it was funny because I was working at a sales place and in a timeshare campground development just for the summer. A lot of guys went off and did this for the summer, and everybody made a lot of money the first couple months. So, like within a week, everybody often bought all their different cars, and most of the guys, kind of American jeans and boots kind of guys, all bought Corvettes. It was the first year of the new Corvette, 84 model, and I show up with a 944, and my boss gives me goes, "Are you freaking kidding me? You bought that German Kraut, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "You know what? In 20 years, the windows aren't going to leak, and the radio's still going to work, and I still have the car, by the way. So it's not worth much more than the wheels, but I still have it." Joined the Porsche Club back there in Iowa, and our club back there was usually a winter cruise to the bars, Sunday cruising as fast as we could. But it was funny because the gentleman that had the cool car was a 911S. He was the boss from the club, and he was a little bit arrogant about his car, about him. And I asked a friend of mine, I said, "Is there anything better than that car? Like maybe I could, one up him a little bit." And I like the 911. He said, "Well, there's an RS, but they're really hard to come by." So I was doing okay. I had to look around. I found one in Washington State and bought it back out there. And that little car stayed with me. It's kind of a cute little story because I'm segue for a second. That little car stayed with me all the way from in Midwest in Iowa. Moved back to California, right where Scott's saying. Scott Atherton and I lived in there's the Los Laureles grade that goes over from Laguna Seca to Carmel Valley, and then he lived at Corral de Tierra, went down. And that's, I think, when he was the president of the track. We became friends, and everybody went off and did their thing. Had the car offloaded there in Monterey, hang on to it for a while until I couldn't get my permitted in our little car garage. Things were going pretty well at TRG. I figured someone was chasing me for the car and I needed the money, so I sold it and said, "Well, I'll get it back someday." And they're pretty stable. No, they weren't so stable 10 years later, and so the car was just, he flipped it to a collector. He told me he was not going to do that. He did. And then I never saw the car again. It was in a hidden collection for years and years and years. So I'm sitting at my desk, and I have maybe 5 things on my hand that I could say I'd like to have done over again in life, and the 2 of them I can't change. Maybe I was denied my destiny as the world's best boy dad. I got 3 girls, by the way. So, I don't know how that happened, but I can't change that one. But I did wish I could get the car back. And so I'm sitting there at the office, and someone says, "Are you watching the Mecum or the Barrett-Jackson auctions right now?" I said, "No, why?" He said, "I was on there yesterday." He goes, "You got to look at Mecum. Is that your car coming up?" And I'm like, 911-36-01327. It advertises me now as the previous Le Mans Daytona winning driver, as the 4th owner. And I'm like, oh my God, my car, I've never seen it in since 2000. This was a few months ago. And so I go to talk to my wife for a second. You know, these cars are going up in value. I get the full cold face from her on everything. She says, no, not even thinking about it. We didn't have, nor did we, have an extra spare, whatever it was going to be later on. And I have a dozen friends that would loan me the money, but I have to have paddle credit on the auction in 90 minutes. It's going on live. I'm in California. They've got floor traders. If any of you have been down to Barrett-Jackson, it is crazy. It is just nuts. And for me in the business, I went there 2 years ago, and I was blown away. So my buddy that called me has a floor trader buddy. He calls another buddy, and there's no way I can get registered. So I get a call, and the guy says, "Hey, Kevin, this is Joe Boyd. I'm the director of Mecum Auctions, and there's a rumor going around down here that you're trying to buy your car back." Yeah. And I said, "Yeah, Mr. Boyd." I said, I am, and but there's no way I can get registered and everything. I missed the car. I had it forever. And he says, "No, that's such a great story." He goes, "Why don't you?" I asked around. Everybody says you're pretty solid. Why don't you go ahead and do whatever you want to do and call me on Monday? And I went, and I got a tear. I get a tear when I tell the story. I didn't get a tear from my wife when I walked in. But there she sits right over there. I got her back. So that's the white car in front of the winery booth. I'll jump in just for a second, Tim, and I'll give it back to you. That's the car, 72 RS. Got it back. And we still have it here. Richard's here. You know it. We brought it from California. We brought it from Petaluma.
Yeah, I love that car.
Had to jump it this morning.
Yeah, I heard that.
That was the ultimate irony.
We left the dome light on. So. But yeah, the company started in the mountains there. We're right across from Laguna Seca. And when I came back from the Midwest, I'd sold the business and I had a little bit of money. What's the joke? How do you make a small fortune in racing? We've all heard that one. Except the problem is they say it in the wine business too. And what am I doing in both of these crazy businesses? But
I'm getting there.
yeah. So we started the company there across the street and selling parts. And I was trying to drive and doing what I could in local autocrosses and local track days. And had my first break because we were still living in Monterey, and I'll stop. The guy that owns the Togo's Sandwich Shop, Mike Colbert, was a friend of mine. We were watching the California Grand Prix at Sears Point in 1994, drinking a beer, and all the big boys were there racing the GT cars, and I was the local fast guy, but not a pro. And he said, "Man, we should do this race next year." And I'm like, "Mike, the car's expensive." He goes, "I'll buy the car. You figure it out. You got a year, figure out how we're going to put a team together." And so I was like, all right, I like challenges, the gauntlet's thrown down. And so I did. And it was funny because at that point we were just moving up to Sears Point because we couldn't really do much more out of our garage down there. If they ever saw, I live in a nice development down there. And it was perfect because you could back the dually down and all you'd see as you drove by through the hedges was the nose of the car. But as you came around, it was a dismantled 911S with oil over the ground and transmissions everywhere. It was parts. People would come up and buy stuff in our garage up there in the old days. It was like,
wow.
They go to the gate. They say, "Come in to see Kevin Buckler?" And they said, "Yeah." And he goes, "There's a lot of people today going up to see him." UPS is up there twice a day now. So, but anyway, fantastic for Mike to give me the opportunity. Practiced, trained, did everything I could, and went out there. And the first thing I got there, the NBC and the CBS guys were, "You're the local guy. That's great. How are you going to do?" And I'm like, "I just want to be my first race. I want to stay out of trouble. These are all my heroes on the track." And I won. It was pinch me. It was like, wow, flag to flag. And the track is hard to drive. It's hard to drive fast, but it's hard to drive really fast and do it for 45 minutes. And so that's what I've been training to do. And so I think our life kind of changed at that point. And at that point, we moved out of Monterey and up to Sonoma to the track at that point.
Now you guys know why I was worried about trying to control an interview with this guy.
That's great.
So you mentioned Le Mans. Tell us a little bit about that experience. That had to be just a pinch me moment.
So in 2002, we now had been in business 10 years. And what I had done there is the same thing we did in the other business, which was tough. I had a real estate development company, went back and founded the same thing I was working for. And we ended up with multiple locations, and we were doing turnaround stuff on these big campgrounds. It was hard, just building a sales team, figuring it out, what's wrong with this place, how do you crack the code. Now we're in business 10 years, and the key about that is that we had set up to run the business as a business. It was a faceted revenue streams. And I used to say, this isn't a good example, I say I like to have a six-legged table. You can put all your eggs in one basket, one sponsor, one big guy, and he goes golfing, and you're left with 20 unemployed guys, and it's just gals, it's a bad idea. So now we sort of pioneered the early days of arrive and drive. I loved it. Like, you would have a car, and you'd be maybe tracking it, except, you trailered it around the local area, but we were going to take a tour and go to Sebring, Watkins Glen, and Mid-Ohio, and these guys going, my favorite, like your favorite golf courses. I want to, and so we started taking these passport transports, had 2 of them filled. One time we had 10 cars there, and we'd service them. The guy would fly in and fly out, wax on, wax off, and that grew. It allowed us to get to where we were at Le Mans. And anyway, when I did apply, the way it works is you apply to Le Mans, and it's €30,000 for the entry. It's $7,500, 25% for the application fee. If you don't make it in, they keep your money. So 3 years in a row, we did not get in. Unhappy CFO, and pretty embarrassing too, but I just tried to keep going. But in '02, we won Daytona earlier that year, and that was a big win for us because we were an independent team. Both Porsche factory cars we beat. Really put a good group together. I'm all about team. It's always been, I try to get the best guys I can to try to, and gals to surround us, and that's what happened. But Le Mans, good little quick story. We walk in there, and normally my guys are pretty rough and tumble. They're like, we're going to go to the hotel. Everyone wanted to go to the track. And we landed on a long flight, landed in Paris, drove to Le Mans. It's night, but it stays late. It stays dark late there. It stays light late there. So we're at the track like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. So we're going in, got registered. Everything's a hassle. We don't speak the language. We stayed in the worst stinky cheese motel. My wife still talks about it. Everything from the beginning we got there was totally a challenge. Everything. And they know, and some of them even speak English, but they don't, so you just make it hard for us. And so we started going past the garages, and I'm looking at these monstrous, oh my gosh, and we have our car, it's sitting on a flight case, it's got its tools, it's got its radio, we had a radio box, and a few other little boxes of stuff we shipped over in a big concrete bunker, and that's what we got. As we're passing the Garage 25, Ferrari has now, they've lifted their 3rd powder-coated red apartment up on top of each other, which is where the drivers lounge during the race, and we had a 14-foot smelly trailer we rented on a front of an old pickup truck. I couldn't believe it. It was a moment of truth for us. It actually began something that to this day, if I speak to a corporate group or talk about some of the things I learned from endurance racing, I call it the endurance racing mentality. But we got there. The guys were looking around, and we all came into the garage. I go, guys, close the garage doors. I said, don't look around. Put your hands in here. Seriously, everybody, don't look around. We know how to race. We're good. I mean, we're I say badasses. We just won Daytona, and we did it because we did it right. But this is a track. We know the track very well. I know there's going to be a lot of other challenges. Don't let anything get in the way. And the one thing we can do, we can't go faster than them. We can't have better equipment than them. But what we can do is race well. And race well means, in endurance racing, no mistakes. Sounds so easy. And how many times you see Romain Dumas driving a factory Porsche crashing in the back of somebody because he just had to make the turn. I mean, it's just crazy how many mistakes. And it's unforced errors. And if we can practice, and with the 3 of us put our hands in and said, it's the only chance we have is to be around the joke about to finish first, you first must finish. So that was our goal, is to be there at the end. And sure enough, oh my God, it happened. And there we were changing positions with the Porsche factory team, and we won. And it was a big moment for the team and everybody.
Wow.
Well, you just answered my next question about a privateer competing against the factory teams. Yeah, that was a really cool story. So what does it take to run, let's say, Laguna Seca, as far as commitment and time and money? Is it a 10-minute, $10 type of adventure? Is it harder than that?
So for getting renting car and running, or racing there, you're saying? So
to run a team there.
Yeah, well, when we start, you have a little car, you maybe have a couple people helping you, and you're doing something with Porsche Club. That could be with tires and fuel and everything, you can spend 10 grand really easy on a weekend like that. You can spend 2 if you don't change tires, but tires are expensive. But as it ramps up, running a full team with pit stops in today's GT3 platform is, probably all of $100,000+ each weekend to run at the small races. The big races are more. You try to offset that any way you can. We were always able to do it through a combination of sponsorship and funded drivers. And that was the magic. You get a funded driver, like we did in the early days of Daytona, you're happy you're there. We got in, and then he gets in the car and boop, 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 you go to the back and you got to start over again. I was a little bit of a unicorn because I was the same as the Porsche factory guys driving, and so I wasn't disadvantaged. And so we had a little sponsorship, and we also were pretty good at all the biz dev stuff. People come to the track nowadays and use it as a place to bring their Wells Fargo clients, or to bring, with us, we're leveraging the winery now and a lot of back and forth. But Laguna too, it's probably one of my favorite tracks. And if anybody skis, I would say Laguna is powder, Sears is moguls. That's the real difference. It's how you approach it, because there's a lot of flow in Laguna to get it right. A lot of flow.
So tell us, what was your favorite win or favorite event that you ever went to, or that you ever did?
Starting off at Daytona in Jack Lewis's car in 1995 in a 4-speed turbo, driving with a couple of yahoos from Puerto Rico, and I got my first stint in the car. And I paid a little bit to be in the car. It was an old piece of junk, but at least we were there. And I got in the car, and I'm on the radio. I said, "What happened to third gear?" These Puerto Rican guys are like, "Are you guys using the clutch?" And then, it's a typical. You need to get in there, and they had the red mist, and so we finished the race with 3 gears. But each year got a little bit more. Then I started running our own car, and then we started running 2 cars. We bought the first Porsche GT3 RS that came into the country in late '99. From Alvin Springer down at Porsche Motorsports, who I'm going to see them Monday. There's a new president.
Tell him I said hi.
I will. I'm going to see the new guy. His name Volker. He's the new CEO. I'm going to see him on Monday. And 01, drove pretty strong. Had a couple mistakes in the race. 02, we told the factory guys we were ready. So they gave me 2 young, brand new, snot-nosed German kids who were running in the Carrera Cup over there. And I was already a little bit afraid of that. But they're fast as snot, but they're young and fresh-faced. Neither have been to the U.S. before. One was named Jörg Bergmeister, the other was named Timo Bernhardt. And they'd never been there before. And so my guy, Michael Schramm, who was 2 famous Porsche racers, for those of you who don't know, and Michael Schramm, my funded guy in the car, was a safe set of hands. He was good. And so we're now 02, first year. And I get a picture, a photographer throws me a picture. He says, "You got to see your car in the bus stop. Kevin, I could roll a bowling ball into your car." As the owner, I didn't break my car. I didn't hop the curbs, but these kids that's exactly what I was afraid of. So I go grab Alvin, the Porsche Motorsports. I say, "Alvin, look at this picture. These guys are going to kill the car. We're never going to make 24 hours. He goes, I fixed. So Jörg Bergmeister is already like 6'5" and white-faced, pasty-faced guy. He's young at this point. He's in his 20s. So he comes back over to the trailer like 30 minutes later, and I look at him. I go, "Oh my God, you're sick. Now you're whiter than white." He goes, "Oh no, I just talked to Herr Springer. He says if I put one single scratch in this car, he'll cut my balls off." and they're gonna fire me too. And I said, no, not that much discipline, Alvin. Let's let the guy drive. So anyway, they calmed down, and we drove, and we won that year in 02. That was our first big win. We weren't saying we weren't ready for it, but we knew we had all the pieces in place, but we weren't ready for it because it was a Porsche factory cars, Ferraris. I just figured we'd put a good performance in and be around at the end, and we were. Then Le Mans, and then to answer your question, it was the next year at Daytona going there for 03. There was a neat story to start it, but I'll leave it for a second. But it was 03 overall one was the biggest one for us. It was big.
That's pretty amazing. So what's the scariest moment you've ever had in a race car?
2 times at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, that's the place.
Okay.
I know it well.
I have fortunate pinch me, never crashed my car. Both of those were crashes, but it wasn't something that really was controllable. I actually have the video somewhere. I should put it on my phone. One time with a co-driver who was errant. You always got to be careful about this. Same thing. He'd been hopping the curbs. Brian Cunningham. I don't mind calling him out. And so we broke the front suspension on the right front of the car earlier that weekend, and we fixed it. And I'm coming out of up the hill in the S's, and I have an in-car camera, and you can see the in-car camera as I'm just leaning into the right gear, like 5th gear coming up the hill. You can see the front suspension come right up into the fender, boom! And so it's broken. I have no adhesion. My car flips around backwards, and I'm staring right down the S's. I'm not inside of a corner worker, and I'm looking. You're coming up the top of the hill, so I'm just trying to get as low as I can in the car, going, all right, this is going to be bad. Finally, yellow flag comes out. That one didn't get me so much. But I got out of the car, I got my ribs a little bit, and so that was one. The other one is, I'll send you the link to it, Tim and Wayne. We were in the rain. Watkins is a big track. And we were leading the Grand Am race in 04. I was driving with a gal. She's good. And the race, it started to rain a little bit, but not enough to come in, but there I come around turn 10, and the drops hit the window like beetles, like you getting in a Midwestern thunderstorm. Like, oh my God! So right away, light on the hands, light on the feet. I got nothing, nobody home, and I just auger into the big, humongous. They were styrofoam, looked like concrete, big styrofoam blocks, and it shows my car going right in. Shit blows up everywhere. Lee Diffie's on there. He goes, oh my God, the class leader Kevin Buckler just drove into, and he said, oh my God, there's another one, and another one, and another one. We had 14 freaking cars come in, including J.C. France, including and then the very worst one of all is Michael Boffman is in a Corvette. Didn't slow down at all. I'm trying to get out the left side of the car. Craig Stanton came down and just right across the side. I would have been done. I was trying to get out. Then I was trying to get out the right side of the car when the guy hit me from behind at 73 miles an hour, and I was in the middle. Went up through the windshield, got a little basketball, and got my neck a little bit. And then we finally all got out, and everybody was just bruised and battered. But that was a good one. Those were the two.
Wow, sounds like a pretty scary moment. So you've got over 100 podiums and countless wins in contemporary cars, but now you've started to get into vintage racing. Tell us a little bit about how that feels and how it's different than contemporary car racing.
First of all, big call out to both of you guys, because as I'm realizing where my, how do you say it, your equity is, the things that I've learned and stuff that we have in our pocket. Guys like you, Wayne and Tim, to be able to carry forward what we do in the sport and everything is just fantastic. Look at what you did here, amazing. Thank you for having me as your guest. And Tim, you've been doing this longer than I have, and we've had some good talks about it and stories. Even last night over a bottle of wine, we got kicked out of here last night. It's been 86.
Yeah, I got to tell that story. So, as usual, I mean, coincidentally, you show up late. You're like on fire. You're so wound up, and you sit down. You start showing around the table a picture of your speedometer. Should I tell people? He shot a picture of his speedometer on the way over here. Was it 157 miles an hour or something like that? And yeah,
it was in those loop-de-loops. That's why it kind of got me. I came down there and I got light, and I said, "Okay, I'm out."
And I'm like, "Okay, here we go." He puts down his backpack. He whips out a bottle of wine out of. How many people carry a bottle of wine in their backpack? And he sets it down. And we proceed to knock it and probably another one down. And finally we look up and there's a security guy. He and I are the last two people on the property. And we look up and the security guy looks at us and says, you got to get out of here. So that's how this, but I'll tell you what, by the second bottle of wine, you kind of mellowed right out.
That's what it takes.
Obviously, you didn't have a Bloody Mary.
No, I should have done that. But I heard some other people had some headaches. It would have been good. But yes, that did happen, and we did. And plus, sharing some great stories.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's a good memory for me. What I remember of it. This morning I had a headache. But, so tell us about you getting into vintage racing.
So we figuring what's happening with the winery right now, and having this wonderful network of people that we've established around the country, from the guys who are on the Magic Carpet ride with me as sponsors, patron saints, helping with the team back in the O's when we did some things in there for about 10 years that will never be replicated again. I mean, we ran 5 cars at Daytona 8 years in a row, competitive programs. I mean, it was nuts. And I was not driving at that point, so that was my thing. Get up and figure out how to do the most absolute complicated logistic things you can ever think of. 125 crew people, 25 drivers. But, the crowd, I wasn't in the vintage early on because I would always try to reach for pro. Now we see what everything's going on and getting a little older, calming down a little bit, having a little fun.
It's a little more chill, isn't it?
Reached out to Tony Perella, and we did a little sponsorship with our winery this year with Adobe Road and with the new, if you haven't seen me, you do go over there. And I should, if I have a chance, Richard, would you grab that box when you get a minute? The 4-pack, thank you. We started a new brand called the Racing Series, and the wines are all based on metal. They're metal tachometers based on motorsports stuff. And so the sponsorship, the partnership, a little more mellow, a lot of fun, and really where my equity is in that group of people that I now have known forever and ever. So I like to do more of it.
Yeah, a lot of pro racers have moved to vintage, and now we have to compete against them. So, all right. So I was going to get into the wine. So you've used your racing background and created a series of wines called the Racing Series. While seemingly a gimmick, these wines have been well received. Tell us about this, a little bit more about this connection. A racing guy starts with
going
shift knobs on the bottles. Okay, that's not gimmicky.
Nope, not gimmicky. If the wines get great scores and they're good wines.
Well, they are
So that's
well.
how it
I
works.
checked it out.
And
They're pretty, and I tried some with you. It's very well reviewed.
Thank you.
It was
You guys
pretty
are
good.
welcome to try them too. They're open. Here we go. So I get to show you. Da-da-da-da-da. This is
Product placement here.
Okay, so when we started, the idea is exactly what I didn't want to do is be because my whole thing, and this is me, is authentic. I'm authentic, and if I can't do it, I'm not going to do it right. I'm not going to do it. Just like going back and seeing my homeboys tonight after 44 years. It's always been the way. My wife's been with me 30 years and 3 daughters, and when we started this, what had happened was there was another couple of brands that had come out and had really ramped up quickly around a great story. One called Prisoner, one called Miyomi, and sold for a fortune, hundreds of millions of dollars. So now I'm walking straight into it. Got business experience. We have wine experience. Our Adobe Road brand's doing great, but I want to have some fun with this. So we started 4 wines, unique packages. This little guy's called Red Line. You can see that tachometer. It tips into the red when you turn it. It's an awesome red blend, $45. Got a 91 in Robert Parker. The 2 big agencies is where we went because that was one of the risky things. We spent a lot of money doing this. But if we did go and get it rated and got a bad rating or something, which I said, I can't do that. It's not me. I'm going to go get it scored by the top guys. This one's called Shift. This one kind of lit us up. It's got a old gated Ferrari shifter on the front and a plastic 5-speed pop top. The new one's got a metal pop top on it. I've got the new 09 because we sold out of this. I was at a party at our shop during one of the big SRO races, and I invite all the teams and owners, and the Ferrari guys were there. And they had seen it, and they saw the bottle and my winemaker, and it was a dynamic party, and they said, hey, do you guys do other events? And I said, sure, we specialize in them. He said, well, we're doing our Ferrari meet, called it the Meet this year in Scottsdale. Would you be interested in being our wine partner? Normally we, shake them down for free wine and cod at the banquet, and all the Ferrari people are tired of that. They want entertainment this year. We're trying to get Guy Fieri down there. And I said, sure. So how many people? He said, 600. 600 Ferrari owners from around the world. And we rocked it. It was really great. But what a great place to meet. 93 Robert Parker. It's a Zinfandel Barbera blend. This one's called the 24, and it's Grenache Syrah Mourvedre. It's really hard to make a GSM, and it's really hard to win that watch. Really, kind of say so. We had a little fun with the packaging. I do get hate mail because it goes, I love the wine, but it won't fit in my damn wine cellar. It won't fit in the racks. And this one's called Apex, and I think that was designed after turn 4 at Laguna Seca. It's in your honor there. So, and it's got a little metal label, and this is our cab killer. That's our big dog wine. This was just for fun. I did this. They come in 12 packs. I did the box thinking it'd be good for VIPs for Christmas gifts and stuff.
Yeah,
and
neat Christmas gift for a car guy.
When the Chinese lady said, no, you have to do 1,000. 1,000. That Deborah wasn't happy, so we did 1,000. Another 1,000. And we've now been, I think we've blown past 8,000 of these boxes. And what happened was people were like, yeah, giving to the Freightliner guy about 80 for his new customers. And even did a little, when you see over there, we got a little mini one trying to survive COVID last year. We had to be clever. So corporate gifts, we put a whole thing out. Said, let us take the hassle of Christmas shopping off of your plate. And they're like, thank you. So we have a little 1-pack carbon fiber wrap box, and we got a 2-pack with glasses, and boom, 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 5,000 of those. So now we're on a huge ascension with the winery.
So tell us some of the similarities and the differences between running a race business and a wine business. I mean, business is business, but boy, I couldn't think of 2 things that are so different.
Tim, it always starts that way, and it's actually not. It's so funny because we're back to, this is on Act 3 for me, in terms of, okay, let's get into a business where there's a big vanity play at the top amongst people who want to own a winery. My typical counterpart, I'm kind of unique again here, because I've really studied up on what I'm doing for the last 6 years. The same guys I was saying on the Magic Carpet Ride came to us 6 years ago and said, Kevin, we're looking at getting in the wine business and wondering, what are you and Deborah going to do? Because we're looking at all these investments, they don't make any sense, and you guys already have a head start on it. And I said, well, I'm already going to bang my head in the pit box one more year in GT, and manufacturers are coming, and now it's getting even more hard to make a living. I said, well, I'm thinking about maybe we could do some stuff. They said, we would back you if you promise one thing. We want you to commit, just like you committed when you were with us at Le Mans, and just like you committed with all those Daytona victories, and you commit. And I said, okay, let me think about it. The next morning, my wife calls me. She says, who put $800,000 in our checking account? I said, you got to be kidding. And I'm thinking to myself, they're my friends. I go, those effers. I said, they know I'm either going to commit or I'm going to send it back. And so I called him up. His first words, did I get your attention? I said, you sure did. So that's how it started. I said, I'm in. And so we went after figuring out a better mousetrap of how to build a winery, for profit, but also all the cool things that you can do instead of being just a destination location. So instead of going up to Napa and Sonoma and begging for a permit, went down to the hottest little city in Northern Cal right now where I live, Petaluma. And it's a little river town. It's beautiful. It's like Austin 10 years ago. And there's food and there's music and it's vibrant. And, we're kind of a little bit, they know our race team is all hidden in the other building down the street, but I call the mayor and I call the city council folks to kind of vet it. And they're like, bring it. We got a huge economic redevelopment. You guys would fit right in the middle of it. And we bought a piece of property right downtown on the river. What started as a small project is now pretty epic. It's a $15 million waterfront winery, entertainment center. We just added a third story to it and the city approved it. It's got a 5,000 square foot flat deck upstairs because there's no banquet facility in Petaluma and the city's hot right now. And of course, I had to do it. We're building a motorsports museum inside. That'll be fun. I hope everybody about a year come visit. It's got we take a lot of our collateral material out from the other building and we're gonna put a 31-degree banking of Daytona in there with 2 cars on it. So a little fun thing to do. But the businesses, Tim, I can't believe how they align in terms of, building the team, best winemaker, best sales team, best, and then stay on top of it and really try to make good decisions along the way. And I never came to a race feeling like we didn't have some advantage. We go to all the wine stuff now. We're doing 7 things. We do events around the country. We're doing, all the corporate gifting and now building the facility. So it's really about the same stuff. It's just building a good team and around a good product and being passionate about it.
Very, very cool. So let's switch gears a little bit. Electric cars are everywhere now. How do you see the future for electric cars in both, street use as well as racing?
I don't know if it's going to make anyone happy, but so I was at the first Miami Grand Prix, and the exact one that I raced at years before, right around the fountain down by the American Airlines Center. And it's like the Mexican soccer announcers. They're announcing the race, and we're all there. I'm on the back of a yacht pouring some wine for the winery, and everybody was hyped up. It's like incredible. And he's going, no, turn 180. And we're all like,
nothing, huh?
I can't tell you, when I was at the Long Beach Grand Prix, where I'm going to be on Sunday, there's probably 3 or 4 things that got their hooks in me. It's the reason I'm sitting here right now. And standing with a chain link fence, I tell Jim McKelly, and I say, I owe you so much money. I hopped that fence so many times back in the old days before. I lived down there. The only time I ever hitchhiked was the first one. But watching Niki Lauda's car go deeper and deeper and deeper into the brake zone with that screaming Ferrari, there's not much more as a 15-year-old boy that's going to get you going. So, and the other, she was at high school.
So not a fan, huh?
I'm a fan of everything they're doing for environment. I'm a fan of everything they're doing for the streets. For racing, I think it's a reach. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's for technology. I think it's great, but I can't get excited around it as I'd like to.
Same here.
Sorry.
You mentioned sneaking into tracks. The first time we set up in Daytona, we didn't have permission. We bought one
What
ticket.
year was that?
This was '84.
Wow.
And we had a '64 Ranchero, and my wife. You'll see there's one on the field. Actually, it's a '65, but there's one on the field. There's quite a bit of room behind the seat, so my wife hid behind the seat, and we filled the back. We had a tonneau cover. We filled the back with magazines, so we snuck her in. And then we just set up and started handing out magazines, and it took them about 3-4 hours before they caught us. So, all right.
You're handing out your magazine?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, nice.
So, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Of course.
But, all right, so before we get into question and answer session here, is there anything else you want to tell us about or talk to us about?
No, I think just as an overview, how fortunate now, I feel to have chosen this path. We didn't
Which
know
path?
Motorsports, and then now the winery and keeping them kind of together in the path. I mean, the winery is hardcore serious as in the last, 6 years and now the last 2 or 3 years. I'm on it. I mean, I'm 80 hours, 100 hours a week, and we're still racing. I hired all my best guys back, so we're running the SRO series. But you and I were talking last night. I said, think about what our equity really is. I don't have a big bank account, but man, do we have a fantastic network of friends and people around the country that we can almost do just about anything. If we want to set up a wine dinner in Miami or want to go to New York and hold a car day and I think one of the biggest things we have always tried to go overboard, and again, we talked about it last night, is whenever we go to an event, no matter what we do, I tell the staff, myself included, just do a really good job. Don't look at the money. Do an excellent job for these people. They've seen everything. They know everything. If they come away and they're happy, we'll be invited back, whether that's a big dinner at the Mastros or whether it's being invited to come anywhere at all. But I think it's been a fantastic. I think I'm going to be appreciating it a little bit more going into the future. We're not a tough place. We're in a really crazy, it's almost like we're going public right now. I'm working, we just did a fundraise. We had raised all of our money for the building, and then something spectacular happened after COVID, and we figured out how to get through it. We started getting huge orders from the distributors, ones that were taxing our system. But the Mama ship landed about 3 weeks ago, and Total Wine loves this for the holidays, loves what we're doing with the other boxes, and sat down on a big Zoom call and offered us a national partnership. So 217 stores. Wow. And I'm on the phone with the CEO and Zoom with the CEO. And the very last thing he asked me is, so Kevin, it's a big order, and you can fill the order, right? And I'm like, yes, sir, Mr. Trone, I can. I'm texting my winemaker, Gary, going, God, Gary, we got to get some more fruit. And so I went to the partners, our investor partners. I have 35 of them, and they're wonderful. And they said, I have 14 other investors that wish I had this problem right now. Let's raise some more capital. So we did a $3 million fundraise for the growth. I think I've done a little half of it and just whispering in a few people's ears in the last 2 weeks. And so finishing that off and just pushing this just like the race team, just as hard and as positively as we can, and having it also be around these fun events we do. It's the first time, if I had to say, I feel like we're almost like doing a little Facebook ourselves, where we're stitching together the wonderful world of motorsports and cars, all of it, to the world of wine, food, and lifestyle around a great group of people, and having that magic thing happen, like happened with Facebook and social media. So
these concours events are a little quieter. Not right now, we got a guy singing, but they're a little less dusty and a little quieter than racetracks. All right, do we have any questions? Come on, don't make me look bad. All right.
Yeah, so in the endurance races, there's probably got to be a point close to the end of the 24 hours where your team knows, if we don't screw up, I think we're going to win. Has it always been, what was the longest time that you had to know that and to not screw up in the last?
So,
did everybody hear the question?
Yeah, I think I can repeat it. When you get to the end of the race, you think you're going to win, you're going to win. How does it feel? How long have you had? I have a couple good ones I can answer you, and so this is why we're here. I got a good story to share. When you're in the car, first of all, it's really funny because when you get to the end of the race, and I never slept in any of the 24-hour races. It's funny because as a driver,
oh, what a shock!
Yeah, they all wanna. Yeah, you really hard to just go lay down and go to sleep. And the radios are on. It's my car. I'm trying to listen. But you are 4 or 5 hours from the end of the race. Maybe you are up on a lap, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, but you start hearing things. You are sure you're hearing things. Tim knows, and he hears them in his cars all the time. And he's running these vintage cars. This is
I run a lot of 24 hours of lemon stuff, so we do hear stuff.
And oh my God! And then who you put in last, and who keeps the car in one piece. And so every time that happened in 02 when I was driving at the end, and we made it. It was fine, but it wasn't with a big margin.
It's the most nerve-wracking time.
The 03 win, we had I think we had 2 laps on the Daytona prototype, and the rest of the guys, there was a Ferrari in there too. And I had enough, we got to the very end, so no matter what happened, I looked at Michael Schramm, who I couldn't have done it without Michael, who was my money guy, and he's, like I said, safe set of hands. I said, what are you doing? He goes, what do you mean? I go, put your helmet on. He goes, I'm going to finish. I said, dude, I couldn't have done it without you. So we get in the car, he finished in 03, which was great. Fast forward a little bit. From that point forward, we were lethal at every race. Never before did they look at us that way, but every time we came, they're like, Lee Diffie would always say, that's the team. 04 we came on the way out. Our trailer caught fire, and I had a really weak lineup that time. It was me, a guy named Patrick Long, Timo and York. But we had a problem with the car.
Yeah, that's really a C list, yeah.
But on the way down the path, here's a good one. In 2007, I'm running it like General Patton, man. We got 5 cars running. At the end, we are 4 hours from the end of the race, maybe 5, and we're running 1, 2, 3. I had all the factory guys.
No pressure.
1, 2, 3, and the cars. I hear this guy. It's French, Romain Demas, and he gets on the radio. Goes, the oil. I said, what are you saying? What's he saying? The oil. I said, what is it? The oil. What oil? What's the temperature? Read it out in single digits. Yeah. 280. I'm like, like what the shit? Nowadays, you can almost, the cars can stand that, not then. So, and the Porsche guys are listening, they come down, Kusmal's there, all the big guys. So they're telling us, slow down, slow down. So I don't know what happened. What happened was, the car came in, all 3 radiators in the front. The old tires, those Pirellis that year were throwing off some sort of like shedding rubber, but they weren't balls. And during the night, when it rained, it picked it up in the radiators, and it was like gray gook. So I got the fireman guy. He had, they don't use chemicals. He let me use his hose. I went out in a suit. I didn't want anyone else to do it, and pushed the fins through, and I shot through the back, and sure enough, all this stuff came out. We did that a couple times, but the Porsche guy said, you got to bring the temperatures down, so you got to slow down. So we slowed down to 6,000 RPMs to finish. We finished 2, 3, 4, and that Mazda won that year. Okay. Last part of the story is come back in 09, we kick it and finish 1-2. I couldn't believe it. Put it in 1, 2, 3 the year before. I go back and change that decision. I would have let one car say burn it down, the other 2 will pull back, or just to try. But I listened to the Porsche guys, and they were conservative, and I let that damn Mazda win. So in 010,
John Doonan thanks you for that.
yeah, he does. That's right. In 2010, we got a great lineup, and now we're running NASCAR, and Bobby Labonte's my driver in NASCAR. They've done a lot where they've joined the series, and Grand Am and NASCAR together. And Bobby Labonte comes and drives with us in our car at Daytona. It's Spencer Pompelli, Andy Lally, and Bobby, and someone else, Brendan Gaughan or something. So there's a lot of, it was NBC that year. And Bobby's a big fan, a big star. So, but he drove. He's a couple seconds off the other guys. And I don't know what everybody thinks. Your NASCAR guys are going to get in the car and whoop out. No. The sports car guys are assassins. They're really good. So
I'm guessing you didn't fit in that well with the NASCAR crowd.
We did fine. It was actually good. There was a good time to come in and try. It was good. But anyway, Bobby's in the car once. We're at the end of the race. We have a 4-lap lead on the field, and the camera guys are right there. NBC's there. I wonder if he's going to put Bobby in. And someone from the media come over, and they said, he'll be really good if you could put Bobby in. So I'm like, crap, okay, I'll put him in. They even asked me a couple of times, please put him in. It's going to be good coverage for us. 4-lap lead from the end. You guys remember any of the old sequential car and the little fuel button in the middle? So we have a protocol when you get in, what you do, radios attached, reset the reserve, all this stuff. So Bobby's in 56 minutes in, usually where you get the bobble. It's called the bobble. When you get your first reserve, you got to go to reserve. He says, hey, I got the bobble. I said, okay, Bobby, hit the reserve. It's like, where's that again? I said, Bobby, we studied this. God damn it. Studied this over and over. And as soon as he said that, I'm thinking to myself, oh no. Bobby, when you got in the car and I told you to reset the reserve, did you reset the reserve? And he's like, I think I'm out of gas. It sucks out of one big long tube and has a high hole and a low hole. So the high hole is when the first reserve comes on. Now you switch to the low hole. He didn't switch it. So we're 4 laps up. He goes off and pulls in the back by the window like you have on the screens. And one of my pit guys hops on a cart, grabs a 5-gallon dump container. And as the time, and the lead diffie's like, oh my God, the TRG leader car's out, and he's back in the back. Oh, there's a guy going out to fuel the car. Hey, he's not supposed to do that, is he?
I was going to say, that's not even
and
legal.
And so he fuels it through the window. You hear Bobby's car start up, and he goes, oh my God, they got the car running again. And my guy, Brock, comes back over. He goes, I got the car. You think anybody saw me? Yeah. And in 3, 2, 1, your buddy Mark Wrap-Up comes on. Hey, all right. It's a 10-minute stop and hole for this, just enough to lose my 4 laps, and so we lost the race over that, and then we won the next year again. So.
All right, so let's take another question. Did we get your question answered?
It was a good one.
We had another question. The question is, were there any drivers that you particularly respected or feared?
I think when I was driving, it was funny because there was a couple of guys you always knew you probably didn't like them in your mirrors, and end up one of them driving for us still today, Spencer Pompelli. I like telling the story, but I like him telling it better because he would always say that, because I'm an old team owner now, and he said, yeah, I couldn't catch you, or you were fast. I said, I didn't like seeing you in my mirrors either. I remember Magnuson, Jan was driving, and remember when he came the first time, and he's sitting on the pit box, he's trying out for the Panos team, smoking a cigarette, waiting to get in the car. 7 laps later, he beats everybody on the team. And I'm like, that guy's, every time I saw him in my mirrors, I was not always happy about him. There were a few people, I used to tell the team with Daytona, and I'd start the race, and guys, listen, we get out there to Daytona, if you know those teams, if you know the cars, be careful on the moves. It's all about risk aversion. If the name ends in an I, like an Italian name, just assume they're freaking crazy and don't make the move. And it was true. It's just these guys come over from Europe and say, oh, yeah. It's like a 24-hour endurance race, guys. Slow down on the first corner. But indeed, we got taken out a few times by that. And so, but yeah, there's a couple guys like that. And I think nowadays, looking back and seeing just the people that just didn't exercise, not so much speed, just weren't smart. And that's still to this day.
I always see people that, almost every race I participate in, somebody wipes out. In vintage, we're not pros, but somebody wipes out on the warm-up lap. I mean, how do you have so little control that you do that? But it happens all the time. All right, do we have another question? We still got about 10 minutes.
It's back to that connection for that. And I know you guys all know this, but thanking the man there with the red hat on and helping put this event on and just getting us together, especially with this weird last 18 months and keeping our sanity and these types of things. I really cherish time with people again. I really do. I'm glad seems like we're out of it, I hope. Go to some places and everybody's masked up, other places are not. I just hope we can keep going. But
they get vaccinated out here.
Yeah. It's good, and I've been doing a lot of events around the country. I'm on a crazy eight-week road trip coming up in Indy and Michigan, and all of them involve wine dinners and racing, and it's a lot of fun and a lot of work, but it's building our brand right now, and we're really onto it. So, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, quick question. So this should be a quick one, I hope. But other than the 911, it was RS that you got again.
Yep.
What is your favorite car?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's your favorite car other than the Carrera over there?
Gosh, I always liked the early 911s. I like the 73S, which is always my go-to, and I bought that one because of it. Watching the technology improve in these cars year in year, it's just like you want to embrace. I think as you're driving pro, you want to embrace all the new technology. When you slow down a little bit, I walk around the field here and go, oh my God, this is so cool. So I think, looking back, I sure like to buy that microbus sitting over there. Yeah. We're driving to Newport tonight. It was kind of fun. I do like.
You got the right haircut for it.
Vintage old Ferraris. And by the way, so I wore my hair long till I was 30, and I was crop top for 30 years. And I said I had a chance in COVID and go back. It used to be long and blonde, now it's long and gray, so whatever. But I think I'm probably more in the non-modern 911 era, just liking what the car has continued to develop into what it is today. And I've been a Porsche guy forever, but and some vintage Ferraris and fun stuff like that. But I like all cars.
I spent a day a couple of months ago. I got offered a 991 GT3 to drive for the day, and I was like, it's just a 911 with a spoiler. It's no big deal. I don't know if you guys have ever driven one of those, but wow.
What about your new rental coming up next week?
Oh, got an AMG Stealth Edition coupe, but
he's a tough business. He calls him up. He gets the best number one Mercedes available. The thing is 603 horsepower. It is nuts fast. It's really cool, and it's a Porsche sponsored event, right? So.
Yeah, well, Porsche doesn't have press cars up here, so I had to call my buddy at Mercedes. So, and I kind of did it a little bit in their face.
No, Tim, not you.
Listen, if you want me to drive a Porsche, get me one for this thing. But anyway.
So I have a question for both of you, but mostly for you, Tim. Have you ever done a feature article on Kevin in your magazine?
We have certainly covered his exploits over the years, but no, I don't think, but that's certainly a good idea. I wish I knew somebody that knew him.
It's funny, Wayne, the last 2 years probably, the conversations about, you look back, because I was looking back at the 70s and 80s and Camel GT and stuff, but as you move forward, like with music, it comes up with different, I thought, I liked the 60s or 70s, no one cared about it. The 80s, now they're cool. Our OOs, when we were racing hardcore from about 99 to probably, for me, right until we switched over to Aston, that period of time, there's 15 years in there when I was leading the ship and driving the car, and some of that stuff will never get replicated again, and it's kind of in my pocket. It's a good story to tell someday. We will tell it. someday, one of the guys that's helping me with a lot of video production right now, and he thinks he has something funded. He wanted to talk about doing a little piece. So I started pulling out all my 8mm tapes. So we have boxes of these 8mm in car. You go through that little player, and it would break about every fourth race because it wasn't made for that kind of vibration. But we got some good collateral over the years, and met just again great people along the way, and I cherish that.
Racing has changed a lot. It used to be you modified a street car and took it racing, and now all the manufacturers, at least the participating ones, they build a dedicated race car. It's taken an independent shop that builds cars. It's pretty much taken them out of the equation.
It makes you think a different way, though, because indeed, we buy the new Cayman GT4. We're buying 2 of them. Another reason to go see Mr. Volker on Monday, but that car comes purpose-built. It changes the dynamic in one sense, though, is that, you want the cars to be fair. If you're going to race one, you don't want to get beat by the BMW or the Aston or the Bentley because it's too fast. So they have this balance of performance. They try to engage in both the GT4 category and the GT3 category. Now, we're supposed to. I mean, the cars come with a little more. We don't cooperate with them, we're trying to, but they have such incredible data now. They can tell if you're, the old days, like, hey, you're going too fast. You come down the front straight to Daytona and you lift a little bit and then you kill your time. Well, no, they didn't do that anymore. They see everything. They know you're doing that. But it allows you to do more strategy on things, more like NASCAR, where you're cutting fine corners to try to be faster in a dozen areas. And I say this, execute well, because that's it.
But this is kind of taking the builder out of the equation completely in racing.
The craftsman. You got more now. You're going more towards really, really distinctive engineers and specialists. But I do miss the craftsman. We built that car that won in '95 at Sonoma. We built that from scratch. It was a 7911 chassis, and I put it to a set of rules that would allow the car had a 3.6 in it, not a 3.8. We built it by hand, had a Fortune crash box, but it was light and it was fast. So, wait, no, it was me.
All right, we've got a couple more minutes. Anybody have anything else, or?
Make sure to stop by the wine bar, guys. It's on us. We're pouring today.
I probably should avoid that.
No.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim. Really well done.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to both of you guys. For our first round, I think this is absolutely fascinating and excellent. Kevin, thanks for squeezing us in your boring schedule that you have, and for Tim from coming all the way out to Florida. So in about another 15 minutes, we're going to do this again with Randy Ema. Just to remind you, he is Mr. Duesenberg. He has all the original drawings, and of the 378 Duesenbergs that remain in the world, he's seen all except for 3 of them. So I know that's part of Tim's line, but I want to make sure that you tell your friends. So thanks for coming. We'll see you.